Hi everyone, this presentation is about the systemic thinking, the way to superconsciousness. We want to discuss about the systemic thinking and introduce some keywords in this discussion and pathing to achieve the superconsciousness. Keywords: systemic thinking, consciousness, bicameral mind, self-conscious mind, component-oriented mind, holism and holistic mind, and superconsciousness mind. What is the systemic thinking? The systemic thinking is integration of all components to achieve one thought so that we can optimize the whole system, because in the system there are many components, members, and we must optimize the system according to objectives, one objective or multi-objectives, and some conditions that we envisage to this. This is the way of making sense of complexity of the world by looking at it in terms of wholes and relationships rather than by splitting it down into its parts. We shouldn't discriminate the parts and components. We would better to consider all components or parts and consider their relationships to achieve better output. System thinking uses systems theory and system sciences. I must say that there are two trends called system engineering and system management in the field of industrial engineering. Those focus on systemic thinking. In the systemic thinking, as I said, we must integrate component and consider their relationship to achieve better output. One of the tools for implementing system thinking is the mathematical programming modeling, MPM, which optimizes the desired objectives subjected to the existing constraints. Totally, in this tool or model, we write the mathematical program subjected to expressions that are called constraints. I will explain more at the next slides. And in this mathematical model, as this is integrated system in the systemic thinking, we can optimize the objectives. As you see, in systemic thinking or optimization by mathematical programming modeling, you can see minimize objective functions so that the functions is dependent to is a dependent variable. In other words, functions are dependent to the decision variables is called x, is notated x by x equals to cx. C is coefficients of x, and this expression minimize objective functions subjected to constraints. There are many constraints, not one constraint. Constraints are mathematical expressions uh, is noted by this structure. Ax is greater than b. B is one digit, is called right hand side digit, and in the left of this equation, in equation, you can see ax. A is constant number, is multiplied to the x. X is decision variables, and the other expression you can see x is greater than 0. In this expression we can determine the sign of decision variables. Or other structure, you can see the mathematical programming model. Maximize objective functions equals Cx subjected to constraints. And the format of constraints in this part, you can see Ax is less than b. The right hand side number is b, constant digit, and in the left hand side you can see the expression ax. As I said, system management as an optimizer can see the whole of structure, whole of system, all aspects, compromising components and relationships between them are considered in system optimization by system management. For example, every manager can see all things in the system, and the manager can optimize the system according to the existing constraints and relationship between the members of system, and the manager can see the system and whole of system better than other members or components of the system. In this section I must define some words in the psychology, similar to consciousness, superconsciousness, and self-conscious mind, and unconsciousness, subconsciousness. These are special vocabularies in this scope. Consciousness, a percentage of the brain's active capacity that is perceived by the mind. The consciousness is a special vocabulary in the scope of psychology, but there are synonym vocabularies similar to awareness is equal to consciousness, but in the specialty of psychology, these vocabularies are different with each other, but we cannot to discuss the meaning of these vocabularies and specialty of them. We want to present the meaning of every vocabulary related to conscious is important in this presentation, and pass this discussion to achieve our goals. But consciousness can have other meanings in the philosophy and psychology, but we intend to achieve this meaning, the percentage of the brain's active capacity that is perceived by the mind. And what is the subconsciousness and unconsciousness? In the literature, subconsciousness is different from the unconsciousness. Unconscious mind or the unconscious consists of the processes in the mind which occur automatically and are not available to introspection and include thought processes, memories, interests, and motivations. But subconscious, in psychology, the subconscious is the part of mind that is not currently of focal awareness. In some literature, instead of subconsciousness, I have seen that the psychologists use the vocabulary of preconscious or preconsciousness. But what is the meaning of conscience? Conscience is different from consciousness. Conscience is a cognitive process that elicits emotion and rational associations based on the individual's moral philosophy or value system. Conscience. And subconscious versus unconscious. As I said, unconscious is empty of consciousness. There is no consciousness in this part. And subconscious equals to or is synonym to the preconscious. And there are a few conscious in this part. In the field of psychology, the subconscious refers to that part of consciousness that we are unaware of. It is information that we are not actively aware of the moment, but that can influence us nonetheless, such as things that are heard, seen, or remembered. But the unconscious mind, on the other hand, is a term coined by Freud to refer to a part of the mind that cannot be known by the conscious mind and includes socially unacceptable ideas, wishes, and desires, traumatic memories, and painful emotions that have been repressed. Infinity.